Good morning and welcome to our webinar. My name is Paul Gant. I'm the VP of Sales for Clusterpoint across Europe, and I'm joined today by my colleague Girts Palejs, who is our product specialist for our network traffic surveillance system, which is what we are going to be presenting over the course of the next 30 minutes, hopefully also allowing for some questions at the end in order to give everybody as clear a view as we can during that time as to how this product works and the power of the solution. So just a couple of hygiene things first, if you will. The way this webinar will be conducted is like all similar events. We can't possibly have those who are participating contributing by voice, otherwise there'd be way too much background noise, etc. So everybody will notice that they are muted. But we hope, and it's quite possible, that you will have questions during the course of the event. So if you do, please type into the questions pane on your control panel. What we will do is probably towards the end, we will answer those questions when we see all of those that have been posed, and that will enable us to hopefully address any questions that arise from the course of the session. So with that said, what I would like to do first of all is really take you through some background issues around the network traffic surveillance system, just to get some clarity around what it is and how it works. And I think the place to start is what you're seeing now, which is that the network traffic surveillance system captures and stores all the traffic on a network. It's as simple as that. Now, the way it works is that you place special devices that contain our Clusterpoint database and specialist software onto your network. The number that you need depends upon the scale and scope of your network. These devices are actually invisible to normal users, so they would not appear on the normal network topology, but they are clearly available to people who wish to look in, who have approval to do that, and do the research and analysis that we're going to be talking about later. So they're placed on the network, they're not visible to normal users, and they capture everything that passes through them as it passes through them. So within a matter of seconds of network traffic having passed through the device, it is stored on the device, and indeed all the information that passes through the network device, the network traffic surveillance device, unless you ask for it not to be, will be held and stored. How long it's held and stored on the device is defined by the organization that's using it. It's typically a matter of months, and why that happens we'll see later. Importantly, NTSS captures two items, two broad items. It captures metadata, which is typically the when and the how. So it's about network addresses, email addresses, IP addresses. So metadata is what allows you to do a lot of analysis as to where traffic has been going to, where from, and understand the nature of that traffic. But also it captures content. And specifically by that we mean human readable content. And it is this human readable content which is central to the specific value of NTSS, because there are indeed a number of tools that capture metadata about where network traffic is heading, but as far as we are concerned and aware, NTSS is unique for its ability to capture and store the entire content that is passed through the system. And just to be clear on that, the metadata is the when, the who, the where, the how of network traffic. The content is the what. So as I say at the bottom there, I may be able to, using metadata, see to whom the email was sent and when, but what did it say is around the content. And the use case that we see and our clients use NTSS for very much depends upon being able to capture that content. This then gives you two capabilities, a pre and a post-event capability. The pre-event allows you to say, I am concerned or suspicious, whatever term you may want to use, that activity is taking place on our network or may take place on our network, which I want to know about. I am therefore going to set triggers so that when any activity of that nature occurs, I will be informed. I'm keeping watch, in effect, for anticipated activity on the network. The post-event says something has happened. something has been drawn to my attention, which makes me now believe I need to investigate this further. So let's think of a simple example, which is whereby you may be concerned that competitive information about your organization is leaking out of the business, and you believe it may be to do with somebody within the organization. Your suspicion of that may be raised because maybe a competitor is constantly and very instantly matching your pricing or responding quicker than you believe is feasible to activity that you're undertaking. So your suspicions are raised maybe by something that's just occurring in general, and then you want to drill in and find that information. That's when you can investigate post-event. You've got all the information stored on the NTSS devices, and you're able to query the information that's been stored, both the content of that and, as we've mentioned earlier, the metadata, and you can dig deeper by the detail, the content, the time, the personnel, the type of activity to reveal, is there any information contained here about information that's passed over your network that might help you with this understanding of the leak of competitive information. Now, in terms of the metadata that you can search, and I'm not expecting you, by the way, to read this detail at all, but this gives you some idea of the scope of information that's captured by the NTSS solution. So it's allowing you and is storing any of these items for you to query as part of either a real-time alert, you want to know when something which complies with certain conditions stated around these points occurs, or a combination of that plus documents, emails, web pages that have been browsed may contain some of the content, the words that you believe would be an indication of what's gone on. And it's that free text capability that really allows you to investigate content in a way that would simply not be feasible using the metadata that surrounds that content. And this is where Clusterpoint comes in. Underlying the NTSS solution is our very well-proven, well-established and highly powerful, what we call hyper-performance database, which allows you to store this information as it's passing through the network, perform free text retrieval on the entire data set as part of your investigation. And this is harnessing the power of that technology to provide that capability for you. So to summarize, before I hand over to my colleague Girts, who will now show you an example of how the system works, Clusterpoint sits at the core of the NTSS solution, running with specialist software on network devices that are placed on your network, are invisible to users, but are capturing in real time all information that is passing across your network, whether it's within the organization, with emails from person to person, whether it's documents that are being exchanged on those emails, or whether it's web pages that are being browsed and documents that are being downloaded in various ways from the internet. Whether the information is encrypted or unencrypted, provided you hold the key to that encryption, and for any internal encryption capability you will, that information can be read and stored. It's stored permanently. You define the window of storage. Is that going to be for 1 month, 3 months, a year? You define that. Clearly the capacity of storage required will depend upon how long you want to store that for. You then search and retrieve on demand. So the information is all held within the Clusterpoint NTSS system, and you retrieve as needed. Or you code alerts to appear to you in real time as and when you feel that is appropriate. So if you know something is going to happen, or you suspect something is going to be happening, then you code an alert in real time to watch for that. If you're investigating something that you believe has happened, you would use the search and retrieve on demand. So that is my introduction to how this works. Let me now, if I may, hand over by passing the baton to Girts. Girts, you are now presenting.
Yes, hello everyone. My name is Girts Palejs, and I'm a product manager for the Clusterpoint NTSS system. And as Paul started with the introductions to NTSS and mentioned the demo, then here it is. And what I'm going to do is run through a fairly simple scenario that can be done using the NTSS that's monitoring a given network traffic. As you will see, no doubt, this scenario and the data are, generated by me, not to invade anyone's privacy at this moment. But nevertheless, it's all about real data captured from the network and ability to work with the contents and the metadata captured to find out what we are looking for. So to start with, once again, as Paul mentioned, you have to have some kind of a suspicion or starting point for investigation or something. And in this case, let's say the starting point and the suspicion is the same that Paul mentioned, prices. So we have suspicion that there is information going out, let's say from our network, about the prices for our products to somewhere outside. So we type in, and in here we have basically a full text search into the collected data. Collected data that can be specified by category. Full text search into all the contents of the data. So what we have and what we do know is obviously cluster point and prices. General thing, we go from there. If we run a general search for the web pages, there are things coming up on that people have been browsing on the web containing cluster point and price one way or another, but this is web traffic and it's about viewing information. We're looking for something that's been sent out from the company, so probably email. If we switch over to the email, then to this specific keyword, phrase, keywords, we have one result. Email coming out from the company network, from Girts at clusterpoint.com to an outside email mailbox on the Gmail. And by clicking on the mail, we can have a preview of the mail along with the general information about the email itself, the metadata, when the information was sent out, what was the user's IP address, what was the user computer's MAC address, and all kinds of different other information that we can find out about the email. And if we look at the email, as you see here, there's no mentioning of the price directly, but there is an attachment. And one of the things Clusterpoint NTSS does is it recognizes and looks into the contents of the files it recognizes. And in between those formats, there is as well things like Microsoft Office documents, Microsoft Office Word, Excel, PowerPoint. For the same list goes as well PDF documents, if there are PDFs with readable text in it. All their contents are monitored, indexed, and available for search. And this is just what has happened here. And by entering a phrase or keywords that we were looking for, the price, we found an email with an attachment, and the attachment can be easily downloaded from the system. And if we open it, in the Microsoft Word, as it's a Word document, as you see, we can see the document itself. So what we see here is basically a recreation of the document that was sent over the internet network or the email as an email attachment. And here we have, of course, a temporary document that I created for this purpose, but still document mentioning cluster point and price. And obviously we've found the case when this information has been sent out from the network to the outside address for whatever reason. So what else we can do? Obviously, there's been an email exchange between those two addresses. We can go into and look into that in more detail. So we go into advanced search, and what we do know is that we're looking for emails, and we have email addresses from, which is girts@clusterpoint.com, and we have the address for the receiving party, Gmail address. And for the starters, it will be enough. We do have a list of emails here that we've seen. In this case, we don't need any result grouping, and we are interested in results sorted by time. We adjust those settings, and here we are. 3 emails. Some of them are larger, obviously, with some data sheets. This is the email that we found out with the price information as well, and there is some more information. What else we can do? We have the email with the price sending information, and in the email we have timestamp when the email was sent out. So it's November 8th, 9:55 in the morning. One thing we can do is, of course, look at the surrounding information around this event. So once again, we can go into advanced search. Going one step back, sorry. Important thing here is user's IP address. So that's one of the identification tools that we have for this specific user, at least on this specific day. This was the address he was using. So we take this address, and we can specify this IP address as one of the parameters in the search. And in this case, we can look for web traffic. And web traffic, let's say for the last 2 days. So yesterday and today, tomorrow, just to have full 2 days. If we look at this information and we don't need the email addresses anymore, system comes up once again with a list of different web visits from this specific user during those 2 days. But as you can see, we have like 8 pages of results, all kind of information that's being viewed over the internet. Once again, to find something more, we need more information on this one. So if we go back and look for, once again, for the emails from this between those 2 users, and look at those emails, since we have access to the contents, there's one more email here. Says, as I mentioned on the phone, after one more look at your product offering in your web just now, I believe the info I sent will be helpful to you, etc., etc. So he's mentioning that he's been visiting the other party's website just now. So just now is somewhere around this time, around November 8th, 10 o'clock in the morning. So what we can do, once again, since we have access to all the information that's been transferred over the network, and it's all time-stamped and adjusted through the network time, we can do just that. Once again, look for the web pages, look for that specific user, his IP address, and in this case we can specify a very precise time and day. In this case it's November 8th, let's say 9 o'clock. It was around 10 o'clock, so 9:45 to November 8th, 10 o'clock or something, 10:05, 10:06. And here we have defined the search for web pages this specific user has viewed between this and this time. If we do a search, once again we've left with the email address in here. We skip the email addresses, and here we have an evidence that this specific user from this IP address has been viewing this particular website, which is once again a security solution from another company, and in this case it has a domain, and so we have a distinct lead into what this Gmail account user could be representing and where this information from our company is going to outside our company. This is just one of the examples how by combining and viewing both the contents and the metadata and doing some investigation, we can find out and follow up on the traces of internet activity over the collected traffic. Of course, there are several more ways to look at the information from the Clusterpoint network traffic surveillance system. There are statistic reports, as well as, since the system is collecting pretty much all what's happening on the network, independent of platform operating systems, etc. In this case, we were looking at the web visits and emails, and we don't really care whether this was done from a Windows computer, Mac computer, or was it a smartphone or something. If it was a device on our network, and if it was transferring and receiving emails, we can see this information and receive it. And to have a kind of a broader overview of the system, of the network, we can look at the network graph. It's one of the ways to look into the information again. So what we're looking at is here a graphical representation of all the captured traffic for this specific day, for today, within our network. And so if we can zoom in here and get into more detailed views of this, here we have all kinds of interconnections between the computers that we have on our network are represented here, and a view like this is very handy for network administrators to look at the patterns of connectivity in between the network. As you can see here, the direction of all the connections is shown already. So in here we have a connection point where everyone is connecting to. So obviously people have been connecting to the internet. Here on the other hand, we have a different picture. We have a user who's been connecting to a whole lot of computers on the network, and by checking out this specific user, we can quite easily see the outgoing connection from him, the types of protocols and connectivity he's been using. As we can see, even though he has a lot of connections, it's all about web connectivity, and if there are some other protocols, then we can follow them up and see that it's been some secure shell connections and other requests as well. In short, that's two things I really wanted to show about the live system that we have here. Do we have any questions so far? Paul?
Yes, we do, Girts. So the question we've had from Rob is, how do you recognize specific users? So how would you know that an individual was associated with some traffic?
Okay, one of the examples was here, and it's the obvious one is that the IP address the user has been assigned on the network, and if he's using it. Besides that, of course, we can always double check that with the MAC addresses, which is more hardware oriented, and you can monitor users by that. And then again, the third case, of course, is if we do need more specific user authorization, then we can work with our clients' local authentication systems and integrate into Active Directories if necessary to have the user identification information. System does, however, have its own identification engine. It generally looks for each and every user's login details. As soon as somebody from a specific IP address logs into a web, Facebook, email, whatever, the system can associate this username, this login information with that specific user and keeps it there as long as it doesn't see any other online credentials that it captured.
Okay, well, thanks for that. And then a second question, just arrived now from Jane, is capturing all of the traffic sounds like it would be a big storage job, is sort of what she's saying. Can you please give some context around storage volumes? How much would you typically end up storing per user over time?
Yeah, it is a lot of traffic, and as you can see, it's just a lot of connections, even with a fairly small network. There are several things that we generally do with the NTSS. Even though, yes, NTSS can and will store all the captured traffic from the network, there are things that we suggest customers do to manage the size of the capturable traffic. Since we look mostly at the readable contents of the traffic, then I would strongly suggest that the users capture mostly TCP traffic and leave the UDP traffic be, as it's usually used for more technical protocols where there's not much readable information. So in our experience, lots of customers avoid storing UDP traffic besides some DNS requests and some other small technical details. Then next step would be in each and every case when you monitor traffic to look at the network and look at the network traffic patterns and look for the computers and hosts loading and using most of the traffic. Most of the time those are not really security issues. Things like update servers, etc. They just download and update, update and download updates to the local systems, redistribute them, and it's not really usually a security threat and not much to read about it, so they can be excluded from traffic monitoring and traffic storage as well. And of course we use certain deduplication methods to store and minimize storage once, let's say, this number of users visit the same web resources over and over and over again. In the end, it comes out to average numbers. Let's say 1,000 user organization, 1,000 computer network. It would generally, in average, generate about a couple of terabytes of traffic per day to go through. And out of those couple of terabytes of traffic, the system, I presume, would record something around 50 to 60 gigabytes of readable contents and metadata per day that we would store in our database.
So that's 50 to 60 gigabytes per person per day, is that right?
Not per person, per
for the whole organization, for 1,000 people. Okay, great.
Yeah. And it, of course, comes up into terabytes of data quite quickly, but then again, the Clusterpoint database technology storing this all, and with its linear scalability, we can handle that, and we can provide sub-second searches in those terabytes of data anytime.
Indeed. Girts, well, listen, thank you very much for that. So I think it's time for me just to summarize and conclude here. So really what we've sought to demonstrate over the past 30 minutes is our network traffic surveillance system. As you're seeing on the screen in front of us here, which we've been looking at for the past couple of minutes, this is all about being able to capture all traffic, including content, as it flows through your network on a series of invisible devices which are placed on your network. The traffic that passes through is stored permanently for whatever period of time you elect. You can then search and retrieve on demand in all that stored traffic, web pages, emails, and documents, using both associated what we call metadata, so various tags around time and place and people, and also, most importantly, around content. You can search for information by the content of the documents stored in the database. You can do that on demand, and also, and finally, you can trigger alerts whereby if you want to know that something is happening, that a conversation is taking place, that certain types of information are being viewed or transmitted over your network, you can program for those alerts to also occur. So all it remains for me to say is thank you very much indeed for joining the webinar. I hope that has been helpful to you. If you have any questions, please do ping those to me. I will show you my information on the next screen. Please send me any information or questions, sorry, that you have around what you've seen today, and I hope you found it to be of help. Many thanks indeed.